Have you given
Yeah,
up on women? Are you just done with dating? Matt Cook here with Jonathan Green. And I want to tell you, we get this a lot. I can't tell you how much I get this. We have 700,000 men that subscribe to our newsletter. I've coached tens of thousands of men. And over the years, so often I'll get an email like, Matt, I'm just through. I threw in the towel. I'm done with women. I just can't handle it. And so I thought we would go through, some of the objections that men are giving about why they're just can't deal with dating women anymore, trying to find a romantic partner. So the first one is women are too choosy, that they give this impression that they have to have the perfect guy. And I call this the list. The women have a list. And did I know you've watched those Indian matchmaker shows where they have the matchmaker, she goes to the guy or the woman and she says, what's your, list for, and she says, a guy has to speak 3 languages. He has to be a multimillionaire. He has to have his own jet. He has to be kind to pets. She has her incredibly ridiculous list. All women today have the list. So when he's saying that women are too choosy, I think he's right, that women have an unrealistic list, and yet at the same time they will sleep with somebody that doesn't match the list at all. But for someone who's a good quality person, a lot of times they have great difficulty, which is why we have this channel. They have great difficulty because women have standards that are beyond high. They're just stratospheric. And that's why you see so many women by themselves. What do you think, Jonathan? What is the truth of this as women are too choosy today?
So a lot of women will say things like, I would never date a guy under 6 feet tall. And then they'll say, but a guy shouldn't care how many men I've been with, right? It's like, I can have standards, but men can't. That's kind of this game that women are playing right now, which is why a lot of men are pulling back, is because, and this is why a lot of women are entering their 30s and finding out that it's like, you see a lot of actresses that find out at 40 that actually they're not funny because no one laughs at their jokes anymore. It's like, I thought I was funny. It's like, that's not where everyone is laughing, right? So there's these things that happen. Men have a different trajectory, right? A different trajectory of challenge. So we kind of peak around 40 rather than around 22, but that's just the difference. But a lot of women start off with, here's a bunch of rules for men, and a man can have no standards for me, right? A man can't say he doesn't want to date a single mom. A man can't say he doesn't want to date a woman who's overweight. A man can't say anything, right? Like, body positivity is about women, not about men. You see, right? Now they have these larger statues or mannequins at the department store, but it's never in the men's section. You never see a fat man mannequin. I would like that because I want to see what the clothes are going to look like on me. So
yeah, it's true. You don't. I noticed Victoria's Secret. Have you been by a Victoria's Secret in a mall? They're all big, fat, ugly women now. I'm sorry. They just are.
Yeah, no,
they don't have any cute women anymore.
Yeah, like my wife is no interested in looking at that. Like, why go to a store where they no longer have your fantasy of like, oh, that's what I want to look like, right? I don't want to know what I'm actually going to look like in the clothes. That's not very fun. That's why I don't buy clothes often, right? I want to live the fantasy, and they've killed that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if you talk to most women, their standards are mathematically impossible. So a woman will say things like, I want a guy who is 6'2", who makes over $500,000 a year, and has a large penis. Let's just say that. Mathematically, in her entire life, she'll meet between 0 and 1 men who meet this qualification. Because there's very few. A lot of women are so out of touch. They go, how many men make over $500,000 a year? They go, I don't know, like 1 out of 3. And it's like really like so much lower than that. So they don't know. They don't know how many men are actually over 6'2". So most women, they say, I want a guy. If a woman says she wants a guy who's over 6 feet tall, makes over $100,000 a year, 6 figures, and has a 6-pack, there's for every one of those guys, there's 1,500 women in America. That doesn't include the age of the man. That doesn't include if the man is a monster or if he's in jail, right? It doesn't matter. Just for guys that hit those 3 qualifications. And it's very interesting because those are 3 things that really are good for short-term relationships, And it's funny. It should be things like, how about nice to his kids? How about doesn't do bad stuff to me or bad stuff to the kids? Like, that should be high up on the list, but it never is. And it's always a very superficial list. It's very interesting. I watched some TED Talks by a woman who is 10 years later still making TED Talks about her list and trying to find that guy. And some of the things on her are like, yeah, it's like really good at art and knows how to and owns a boat, and it's like those two don't like you very rarely meet people who own. Not many men own a boat, right? And then can do these other things. So it's always things that are really contradictory. Like loves poetry, but also loves like samurai swords. It's like, okay, how many guys are mean that? So a lot of women will make these really extensive lists, and they're fantasy lists.
Yeah.
And the truth is,
Yeah.
you never meet someone who fills out your list. And when you do, you find out that, oh, I put all the wrong things on the list, right? Here's what really matters. How about kindness? How about is nice to my kids? How about treats me with respect? How about gives me pleasure in the bedroom? How about makes me feel like a person? How about doesn't treat me like a situationship? But that never makes it onto the list. It's always these fantasies of like, oh, I want a guy who really loves baseball but doesn't watch it during the daytime. Like, what? Right? Like stuff that's like silly and very superficial. So this is where a lot of women run into trouble. So when people say they're choosy, it's because they make lists that are mathematically impossible. Most lists that women have, probably 90% of women who have a list, if you look at the list, there's no man living that currently meets it. There's literally no human that meets every criteria.
Well, I would say they don't really want to meet somebody in that case. I mean, if they're being so unrealistic, perhaps it's just a way of excusing themselves from ever having a relationship.
I think part of it is that they go, well, until I meet this guy, I'm just going to have a bunch of short-term relationships with bad boys. It kind of gives you that justification. And it's funny because then the women are like, oh, all men are bad boys. It's like, well, that's all you like. And the important thing is if you want to date a woman, just find out what the last 10 guys she dated were like. So if you say to a woman, well, the last 10 guys you dated, how many of them were jerks? 9 out of 10. Well, then, okay, here comes the jerk because I know what you like, right? That's part of it is that. So when you talk about choosiness, it's usually a choosiness that's based on non-reality, right? Like when you say to a woman, like, what's your dream career? Oh, influencer. Which is like how many women are influencers? Like 100 in the whole world? I don't know, not that many. It's a very rare job.
Well, there's probably 20,000 influencers and 100 successful ones. You know, the other ones is they have a day job, so they may consider themselves influencers, but they're not really.
I saw a thing where a man interviewed a bunch of women. He said, "Hey, would you rather have a job where you're like working for a PR agency with a really cool job title and you make zero, or you clean the sewers and make $100,000 a year?" One woman picked the second answer. Every other woman says, "Oh, I'd rather have it sounds cool. Sewers, that's gross." And that's the thing is that women make bad decisions. That's a bad decision. Making zero money is a bad decision, right? Cleaning sewers is tough. It's a hard job. I respect that it's a hard job, but also to make 6 figures, isn't that what you said you wanted? So a lot of the things that women think they want, they don't actually want. So they build these lists, and then when they finally get married, and this has happened. I've seen a woman before say, oh, I'm looking for these things in a man. Then you see the next guy they date, he's 0 out of the things on the list. So the best thing you can do is ignore the list. It's just not true. It's a lie. It's a fantasy. It's just like, listen, I have daughters. They both want to own a unicorn. That's on their list. Guess what?
There's only one unicorn in the world. They both can't own one unicorn, right?
It's exactly
the thing I would say. I mean, the thing is, you're absolutely right. I think this unicorns and rainbows, this list stuff, and this choosiness is exactly that. All we can do as men is just completely ignore it, because there's something that these psychologists call cognitive dissonance. And it's like where one side of your brain says, oh, I want a guy that has all these attributes. The other side of the brain says, oh, I want this guy. I don't care about his attributes. So the list is just nonsense. You just have to, forget it, ignore it. It's just, unfortunately, I think it's part of the brainwashing that we've gotten growing up with the every girl is a princess from the Disney movies. The next thing that these men are saying is that women aren't approachable. And actually, women do like being approached. They do like being approached, but they're really hard to approach today because they've got headphones on, they got their AirPods, and they have their phone, and it's really hard to like it. I told you before, if I used to always pick up women on the beach or in the shopping mall, and I got a number of girlfriends that way. Today it's so much harder because they're all immersed in their phones and their headphones, and you're interrupted. Oh, take your headphone off. I had something to talk to you about. It's very difficult. So that's the second reason that women aren't approachable. And yet, I would say that men have a much better chance meeting women in person than they do online, because in person, the chemistry that's there and who you really are shines through. Whereas online, she's comparing you to 100 other dopes that are texting her, and you don't really have much of a shot. And I think, by the way, the online thing is the reason why women have these lists, because I think they're so desirable because 100 guys are texting them trying to go out with them, and they just think they can have this big list, and then they think that till 10 years later, like your woman still giving TED Talks about why she hasn't found the right guy. They mistook this kind of interest online for genuine ability to meet somebody and have a relationship. So I think that's probably part of that answer. But what do you think about approaching a girl these days in person? Like, is there a way that you would be able to do it? I can't really think of one except talking to her and having her take her headphones off and giving her my attention. It's the only one I can think of.
So the first thing to know is that women drive cultural shifts. About 20% of women think for a man approaching them in any situation under any circumstances is creepy. So 2 out of 10 women in every situation, if they see a man walk up to a woman and they think it's creepy. So that's caused a huge, and then there's a large percentage of women who say, why don't men approach me? And they post these videos on TikTok. They go, I can't believe no one approached me. I saw a cute guy, but he didn't come over and talk to me. And it's like, yeah, that's because there's a lot of women who post videos of men or post a video of a man at the gym and go, look how creepy this guy is, when the guy's like not even paying attention to them. What they're doing is actually really changing society. Like, actually, I would like to work out at a men-only gym. A lot of men, now it's funny because it used to be women wanted women-only gyms. Now men are like, I would really like a man-only gym because I don't want to be in the back of someone's photo. I don't even realize she's videotaping me, and then it becomes a whole thing about me, right?
I didn't know that.
All of that stuff, and women do it to each other as well. Like, I saw a woman post a picture of another woman in the bathroom of a gym. She goes, look at her body, and of course, that's a crime. So that woman, they filed charges against her, as they should. Like, people are filming themselves in the bathroom at gyms, and then they film the other people who are walking by them. They don't realize that filming in a bathroom is illegal in every state in America. Like, people are real dummies. But it's created a culture where people don't feel safe, where you can easily be misinterpreted, right? Because everything, a comedy becomes a horror movie if you change the backing music. So there's this huge shift that women have created, not men, which is that there's a ton of women who complain that men don't approach them. There's a ton of women who complain that men do approach them. And they'll post videos like, you should never approach a woman here. You should never, and they like cry, and you should never approach a woman there. You should never approach a woman here. And what they're doing, and then and that's why they're alone. And then they go, oh, I hate all the dating apps. It's like, you've created an environment where no one is allowed to talk to you, right? You're not allowed to approach a woman at work. You're just not, right? That's against rules. You'll get fired. You're not allowed to approach a woman at the gym. That's her special private place. You're not allowed to violate her privacy at the gym. You're not allowed to talk to a woman at the bar because she's out with her friends on friends night. And how dare you make an assumption about her? Well, guess what? Those women are going to die alone because they've created an environment where no one is allowed to meet them. And then they go, how come no one ever meets you? And I can tell, I went through this experience. So when I was 27, every night with my friends, I'd go to the same bar that women didn't go to. It was like men only. Every once in a while, a woman would walk in the bar, look around, and turn around and walk right out. She's like, oh, I don't want to go in here. It's all guys. And after 6 months, one of my friends was like, how come we never meet any women? And I was like, because we hang out at a place. I never went that place. I stopped going there immediately. I go, oh my gosh, you're right. That's why. So we will make decisions about where we go. So you have to, first of all, do that. The second thing is that you want to go to places where there's an opportunity for conversation. So again, it depends upon you. Some people like to meet women like to treat during the day. I'm someone who will just go to bars and talk to people. Like, that's my environment. I'm good at that. But you have to realize that there's been a cultural shift that has made it a lot harder, because women will post videos of another man talking to another woman and say, even if the woman likes him, then she'll make a video that's very snarky, because most women's idea of social media is making fun of people. We're seeing that women are very mean, right? Every single one of these gym videos is like, oh, look, I saw a guy working out at the gym for the first time, so I'm recording him against his will, and he's not even doing anything wrong.
It's these influencer weirdos that are mean, not most women. I mean, I just want to be fair.
But the problem is that they're modifying culture because everyone's afraid they're going to meet one of those women.
Right. I see.
There's this huge shift that's happening because of social media, because you're always on film, that you never feel safe, because sometimes you're going to have a bad interaction. So for men, they're saying it's hard to approach women. It is, but also the opportunity is that, and I think it's a very interesting time, is that most women haven't been approached in so long, they're desperate for it. So actually the majority of women are like, just if anyone normal will just talk to me. And just, you don't have to be.
I would go up and start talking to her, and I'd have her remove her headphones and look at me, and we'd have a conversation. And I would get plenty of dates if I was dating now. That's what I would do.
Super hard.
What's hard to do, but you just do it anyway, and then you get really good at it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very hard. It's very intimidating. You're so worried that she's like, "Hey, I was listening to like something important," and it's like, "Were you?"
it was always hard. Never was easy to go approach a woman and everything.
Yeah,
It's never easy, but you just do it. And once you do it, you don't even know what you're going to say. It's just whatever happens, and then you get much more. It's never easy. It's there's always that stage fright. The next one was that women have a self-entitled attitude. They want to be our equals, yet at the same time they want special treatment from men. So it's like they want one-way streets where they control us, basically. They want relationships their way completely. They're self-entitled. I think there's a lot of truth to that today. Don't you? I mean, the roles have changed so much because of movies and popular culture. And I think
yeah.
that puts off men. The self-entitled attitude puts off everybody, honestly.
So it starts off with like women all have these really complicated standards and lists for men, and men aren't allowed to have any standards, right? Like if a man goes, I don't want to date a woman that's ever murdered another man, they go, what's wrong with you? How dare you, right? And they like you're not allowed to have any standard at all. That's what women really want. It's no man should reject any woman based on her appearance, personality, anything, right? Every man should date a woman, or you're not allowed to even say, oh, I don't want to date women who used to be men. What's wrong with you? Are you a monster? Any standard, and women will like really turn on you. But they have like really complicated high standards. So that's the first one. The second one is that women have no idea what men are attracted to, because a lot of women will say things like, I'm really nice, I take good care of my cats, I have a good job. And it's like, yeah, guess what? In a relationship, there's our money and her money. Women put almost no money into relationships. You'll see very little. If a woman, even if a woman's making more than a man, she won't spend money on the man. She won't buy him presents. No woman has ever bought a man. I mean, it's sometimes, like, but it's so rare. So it's really men don't see a woman having a job or having income as a benefit because it doesn't pour into the relationship. And most women who make more money go, well, I have to date a guy who makes more money than me. So they're kind of constantly pushing themselves out of the dating market by being, the more successful you are, the more appealing you are.
Yeah, because you're right. A lot of women are making really good money today. Many times more money than men are. There's this lie that women don't make as much money as men. It's not really true necessarily. A lot of women make more money than men. And so then they want somebody that makes more money than they do. You're right. It's another form of self-entitlement. Very, very difficult to find that. And the next one was women want jerks or bad boys. Okay, so men who might be a little bit passive or shy. Maybe they don't want to change what their approach. Maybe they're not able to change. They sort of are left in the dust by these women that just want these bad boys and jerks.
So this has always been true. Women want guys to ride women like men who ride motorcycles because they're dangerous and they're risk takers. That's what women like. So one of the things that I had to learn was to become more dangerous. And it's like not actually dangerous, right? But it's the perception of dangerous. That's what women are attracted to. Women like guys. If you ask every single woman, hey, what type of guy how should I treat a woman on a date? They'll describe it. And you go, how many of the men you've slept with treated you like that? None. So it's the same thing our parents do. When you ask your parents for advice, how should I meet a wife? And then they tell you, is that how you guys met? It's never how they met. Our parents lie to us too. So what you have to do is shift and start looking at truth and statistics rather than what people tell you, because everyone lies. Just like there's the great lie that ugly women have created that pretty women are mean. Not when people say the reason women like jerks is because they're confident, not because they're jerks. That's the secret that like is not really clear, is that you have to have this deep confidence that is like, I can handle any situation. I don't care about this. It's a non-reactivity. It's like, that's the thing that comes from like, they're out of touch with reality. But for men who's in touch with reality, it's harder to create that. So the way to become more attractive, the first step is to be non-reactive. That means nothing is a big deal. If a woman calls you this or that, or something big deal happens to you, or another guy makes fun of you, you just don't care. People that are very elite don't care about anything, right? Like you watch a great boxer in their regular life and someone like talks smack and they're like, why would I care? This doesn't matter to me. I fight for a living, not for fun, right? It would never happen. They would never do a street fight because it's like, so what's the point? It has no value to them.
Right.
Real confidence is a quiet confidence. So the first thing is non-reactivity. It's very, very much because women will say things to see if you cry or your feelings get hurt because they want to see how you handle tough situations. The first step is non-reactivity. The second thing is to stop seeking approval, right? I want to make her like me. Look, your mindset has to be, if she doesn't like me, she's a dummy. right?
Yeah.
The thought of a woman being
Yeah.
not attracted to me is so silly. That's a confidence, right? I have this confidence.
Her,
Here's something I believe.
yeah.
I
If she doesn't
believe that
like me, it's her problem, really.
any woman, if I speak to her for 6 hours, will sleep with me. Any woman, any situation, any place. That if I say the right words in the right order, within 6 hours will sleep with me. It's a belief I have. Is it true? Probably not, but I believe it, and it creates a great confidence within me. So you have to create these beliefs that it's not what I look like, it's not how much money I make, it's what I said, right? If I say the right things in the right order, then I can fix it. When a woman rejects you, you go, oh, I said the wrong thing, right? That belief gives you the power to fix it. So when you're thinking about why does she like bad boys, it's because they don't really care what she says. They don't react to it, right? They're not emotionally reactive. She's like, oh, it's my birthday. The guy goes, yeah, cool. Right? He's the guy who doesn't buy her birthday present. He's the guy that doesn't react, because that's what women are attracted to, is kind of the alphaness. And that the jerks give you the bad version of the alphaness. The alphaness that's like the healthy alphaness is like, I know what I want and I take it. And if you want to be on the ride with me, then you're going to have a great life, right? I'm very, very dominant in my relationship, very alpha in my relationship.
Yeah, me
but
too.
It also, my wife has a great life, right?
By the way, I don't get my wife gifts sometimes, so I've forgotten cards. And I guess, whatever. I mean, who cares? It's like nothing. I know guys that say, "Oh, I didn't get my wife a present or whatever for the anniversary," and she hasn't talked to me in 2 months.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
not happening in my house.
No, me neither. If I don't get her a present, it's a big deal. She knows.
Whenever my wife sometimes this does happen when she's like, oh, why didn't you do this for me? I go, how many bathrooms do we have in this house? I go count the bedrooms, right? I say, look around our house. We live in this awesome house. Every house we've lived in has been awesome, right? So I say, that's your present. How about that? How about your present is an awesome life? So sometimes you have to, and that's an alpha thing to say, is like, yeah, I don't need to do these certain things and jump through these certain hoops, because I am what I am. I don't pretend I'm someone else. I'm someone else.
I don't always remember that. That's okay. I don't have to remember it. It's no big deal. The next one is the laws are. Go ahead.
You just want to move away from emotion, which is, oh, this hurt my feelings, and when she did that,
defensiveness.
Don't do that.
Being defensive, reactive. Yeah, you're right. I didn't remember. I'm sorry. Oh well. It doesn't matter. The next one is the laws are skewed in favor of women.
That's true.
We have a judicial system that screws over men in terms of marriage and children and custody and money and everything. That is true. I don't really. Yeah.
Here's the deal with that. I think it should be illegal to get married without a prenup.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you should work it all out at the beginning. My wife and I have a prenup, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because we both are good at different things, and it's all laid out. So I was like, I'm not marrying you without these papers. And where we live, there is no divorce. It doesn't matter. Like, they were like, why would you have a prenup? You're not letting get divorced here. I was like, I don't care. I want to put in paper for both of us. There's a bunch of rules for me. I'm not allowed to grab the kids and take them to another country. She's not allowed to grab the kids and go to like a place where I can't find them. We both have that in there, that if we break up, I'll always take care of the kids. We put language in there that's like, whether it's enforceable or not, we know the deal. So what happens is a lot of people, the law, like, divorce is very profitable for lawyers and for the government. Very, very profitable. The government, very much, a lot of politicians stay in power, but based on broken marriages. That's why the single parenthood rate went from 4% to 40% over the last, I think, 50 years. It's jumped a massive number. So the laws are heavily skewed against you. And there's a lot of weird ones. Like, there's like common law stuff where a woman can say, well, I live with him, so now I'm entitled to half his stuff because I've lived here for 6 months. So you have to do paperwork. This is the same thing. Like when you start a band, a lot of people start a band and they go, why would we do paperwork? We're just friends. Oh, well, I'll tell you, every band breaks up eventually. So it's hard when you're in the high days to talk about the danger of the bad days, but it's very important to exactly that, is to put it in writing, get a contract early on, get a prenup. And I know that, like, the thing is that you want them to have a different lawyer than you, so that when they write their prenup, they can't say, oh, your lawyer wrote her prenup. You have to do all of that stuff. You have to put in this extra effort to protect yourself. It's very true. There, for example, if a man doesn't pay child support, they'll put him in jail. But if the woman takes the child support and doesn't spend any of it on the kids, it's no problem. There's no check on that. And it's like, that's a weird system, right? The system doesn't really protect the kids. That's how you know.
So the moral of the story is be super careful about getting married or living together, anything like that. Listen,
You do not want to get a crazy woman pregnant because you're trapped for the rest of your life. I know of guys who are homeless in their 70s working full time because they have to pay all the money to alimony or they'll go to jail and they just can't escape. So that's why when they would just change the law and said that you can't have forever alimony in Florida, and there's all these guys in their 80s that were like, finally, I've been a slave for 60 years, and there's all these women like, no, what am I going to do? So I get how this guy feels, right? So that's a huge reason why I live in a different country. That's why I went to a place where the laws are favorable in the sense that, listen, the law here is also, if my wife catches me with another woman, legally she's allowed to kill me for the next hour. Okay, she's allowed to kill both of us, and it's not a crime here. So just so you know, like it goes, there's no divorce, but there's also, well, it's not a crime if you kill your partner when they're cheating on you. So there's different stuff in every place, but yeah, the laws have shifted in Canada and the United States to where it's very much anti-marriage because the government does much better when no one is in healthy relationships. So it is unfortunate that way. I completely understand. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I can't believe he's a men's rights activist. Yeah, well, it's like, I get it. I mean, it used to be the other way around. Like every time there was a divorce, the men would get the kids. That was what it was like 60, 70 years ago. It shifted in the other direction. It's just shifted bad.
Well, the women would get the kids. The women would always get the kids.
That's new. That is new.
Well,
60 years ago.
60 years ago, the women would always get the kids. Always.
Well, at a certain
men
point,
would never have any rights. In fact, the only thing the men would do is they would have the right to visit like twice a month. Because I was in that situation. I was a little kid and my parents were divorced in the 60s. Yeah. It's terrible,
well,
really. It's terrible for men.
I think it was 20s or 30s or 40s. Whenever things started to shift, at one point it was the men would just get everything, and then it was like, now it's shifted to where the women get everything. And that's not what you want. You want it to be, and it never is this way. It should always be what's best for the kids and what's best, but it's never that, right? It's always things like she's grown accustomed to this and she's gotten used to being rich now. And all that does is damage other relationships. And you have to remember, these judges and these lawyers are making a lot of money off of these divorces, so they don't want anything to change. So just be aware that if you don't do a contract up front, you're going to pay way more later, and it will be bad for both of you. It's not like it ends up in a healthy situation, and you have to it's just like, don't default. It's the same thing as like if you don't have a will, then the government, what they do with your stuff is always going to be bad. So you have to be aware of the legal situation. The best thing to do is to have a contract, and then like do everything you can to protect yourself, because there's for the 90% of women that are good, there's 10% of bad actors that can just put you in a tough situation. It's true.
So the next one, this is the next to last one, is that women are supposed to be now independent, happy on their own, by themselves. Quote, they don't need a man. So there's no point in really going after women getting into a relationship if they don't need men. That was and I think that is true. Women are taught this, and it's a very, very confusing and difficult thing. At the same time, he says, women are willing to have sex with us outside of a committed relationship. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? You know, that whole thing. So I think I have to agree with him on those points. Women do believe that they're happy without a man. They're taught this all along nowadays, not before, but now they are. I don't think that a lot of women are by themselves and lonely for no reason. And I see women in groups all the time, and they're not married, and it's Saturday night, and they're with their girlfriends, and they don't have dates, and they don't have a guy. And then pretty soon they're getting into their 30s, and they're in their late 30s, and they're in their 40s, and they can no longer pretend that they can still have children and have that type of life. And so they're taught to just be very career focused and nothing else counts. Well, I don't think anybody ever regretted on their deathbed that I didn't spend enough time at the office. I didn't spend enough time on my career. I wish I had done that. I think a lot of women are going to regret these decisions because as they're getting older, they don't have the fulfillment in work that they expected to have. It's not a full life. They don't have a full life, and it's kind of too late in a way.
So the first thing is that we've had this great attack on motherhood in our culture where people really look down on moms and say, oh, she's just a housewife, like it's easy. Like running a house is easy. It's so hard. Like I think my wife runs the house. We have a bunch of construction here right now. When she was out of town, for the first day of the construction. It was a nightmare for me. And then today she wasn't at home and the construction guy showed up and I was like, oh my gosh, they didn't do anything until she got here. They literally did no work until she showed up. So this idea that we've shifted, which is, it's really interesting because it's women hurting women. This one is that a lot of women fell for the feminist trick. They hit their 40s and what they did is misery loves company. They go, I don't want to admit that my life stinks, so I'm going to lie to women in their 20s so more women will be like me. And every once in a while you see a celebrity who's like making videos of like, look how free my life is, and then they describe their life and you're like, your life sounds terrible, your life sounds really sad. I can do what I want. I find a guy on Instagram to sleep with me, then I drink this or I eat that, and I go back to sleep, and then I go do work and someone pays me a bunch of money to be in a movie or on a TV show or to work at a tech company in HR or PR, whatever. And it's like, well, your life sounds awful. So my job is the worst part of my life. My best part of my life is time with the kids. Like for me as a dad, I feel the same way, but we're fortunate that I work enough and can make enough money that my wife doesn't have to work. That was something I looked for. I met a lot of career girls and it was like so unattractive to me. It's like, well, because there's also the first thing to understand is there's been huge studies about what happens to kids when they are in daycare versus the mom takes care of them. And there's a massive self-esteem issue because when you go to the playground, you're not special. The nanny is watching 10 kids and you're one of 10, right? Whereas if you go with your mom, she's only watching you. So there's a huge correlation between self-esteem and ego growth in this. And the study was conducted by a bunch of single moms, right? And there was this mom who was like so successful. And then the daughter was like, yeah, I just wish my mom had been there more. So even in these studies where they're trying to prove that it's the same, it's not. Every study shows that there's something missing when the mom is not there. And this idea that career will make you happy, it's like 50 years ago, one person in the family had to work and you could own a house and you could have a car and you could have friends all day. Like when you think about a 50s housewife mom's day, it sounds awesome. The kids go to school, the husband goes to work, and I'm alone for 8 hours doing whatever I want. You think it takes 8 hours to clean the house? Of course not, right? Like she can have to all of her work done in an hour. She has to chat to her friends, make some phone calls, drink a glass of wine, go to the grocery store and hang out. Like it was a really casual day. Talk to the butcher. That sounds awesome, right? Like to me, that sounds like a really cool day. I would love to have days like that, like really low stress. No one's shouting at you. You're just organizing things. You get to be fastidious about your house. I never have enough time to clean my house. So
I would hate that. Would hate that.
Well,
I hate that. Yeah, I love my work. It's like, it's so important to me. And I also think that one of the best things in this one area is being able to work at home, because if you can both work at home, you can be together more. Even if you're both working, it's still nice to be together. I think that's a wonderful thing about today's working life.
My point is that we've shifted to a culture where now both parents have to work and you can't even afford a house. Everyone has to rent.
Right.
We've shifted and things have gotten worse. This idea that like all we've done is double the amount of workforce. There's twice as many people fighting for jobs, and it's like, guess what? And you've been sold a bill of goods. You go to college and I have this massive amount of debt. Oh, cool! I'm $200,000 in debt at 21, and now I need to find a guy that makes $500,000 a year just so he can pay off my debt, because that's every guy's dream. So we have created this culture where, of course, people are less happy. Like, I think it's fine. You want to have a job. Everyone wants to work. That's fine. But as soon as we've shifted to, well, now you have to, right? Now we need both parents to work. And then
if you have kids, you don't really want your wife working all the time. You know, somebody has to watch. I mean, you can do it. It's okay.
I know a lot of people that they're like, most of the money they make just goes towards daycare. Like most of the wife's income is just paying someone else to watch the kids. It's like we're trapped in these cycles where because we don't respect being a parent for some reason, all these other bad things fall off. And it's like, no, being a mom is so important because it makes a huge difference in how the kids are raised. You can always tell if a kid was raised by a mom at home or not, because they act differently. At 18, you can tell right away because they have a complete different personality type.
Well, I also want to thank our sponsor, Ideal Male Labs. And one of their products they have, I think is fantastic. It's Urgent Libido Assist for men that want to increase their libido, want to raise their testosterone levels, lower their estrogen levels. It has a whole combination of very pro-male ingredients that are not in any other supplement of any other kind. It's developed by Dr. Ari Miguel, MD, board-certified physician, and we have a special for you to try Urgent Libido Assist at 58% off. Just follow the link here below to get your bottles of Urgent Libido Assist. I think you'll love it. Let me know how it's working for you. Just visit getrapidhelp.com and shoot me a note. I'd love to hear how well it's going for you. And I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.